Afternoon, YouTube. Old Rusty here again today to bring you another wonderful farm. So today we're going to talk more about fungus. Not the larger one, but the smaller one, because, well, I have a supply problem in my latest madness up there. And I got tired of manually doing this, and the usual methods of growing fungus was not cutting it. And so, what I'm going to have to do here is shake things up a little bit. So, to get nylium, if you, really, let's be honest, if you're this far into shroomlights, you need nylium. But if you're not, basically what happens is you have to bone meal a warped or crimson nylium, and then it will grow various nethers items within a 5x5 area. Now, the only thing that you have to actually have there is the nylium itself. It will grow on grass. It will grow on, I think, soul soil, soul sand, dirt. Like, you have a lot of options here. But it's always going to follow this 5x5, so 25 blocks total. And including there, incidentally, is mud. And we're going to use this today. Because the big problem I see with every other nether nether flora farm. I don't know. I'm tongue-tied here. So, my point is, you bone meal that nylium, it grows a bunch of stuff. You get it out, you want to harvest it, you get more. Most farms get around this flushing issue, so they can clear space for more by using water streams. Which is okay, but when you have that water running, nothing's growing. You're not going to waste bone meal during that time, but you're going to lose time. And that's not really going to cut it when I'm going through over 100 stacks an hour. And the rates for this farm is 2 stacks a minute of warped or crimson, all depending upon which you plant right here in the center. So that is 120 stacks of crimson fungus or warped fungus an hour. So the reason I'm using mud is because it's slightly less than 1 full block, which means that I can get hoppers underneath here to pull everything out. Now, the amount of materials this cranks out is obscene, and a standard hopper line would quickly back up on this, which is why on each side I have 6 droppers. Now, this leaves the problem of the center space, where that nylium is, because it is in fact a full block, which means on this spot here, and this spot here, I'm not necessarily going to get items because those items can remain stuck on top of the nylium and will never get pulled by the hoppers. To get around that, I have a hopper minecart on each side in the same direction that the mud is getting pushed back and forth. And that feeds into its own dropper, that feeds into another dropper, so that it will maintain flow. And it won't go pulling up from this hopper above it that's pulling that last little space there. What all of this means is this. I'm firing off a comparator clock, which is the fastest clock in the game, to fire off my dispenser. At the same time, push the mud back and forth. It gets instantly broken, absorbed into the system, transferred over to the droppers, shot out so there's no backup, and there's a lot here. So much so that I've got to utilize ice flows in order to even pull this thing. This makes so much that in order for me to not get back up, I had to install a total of 8 composters here that of course then take all that bone meal, route it via a hopper line into a dropper elevator to keep feeding. Now, this entire system is in no way self-sufficient. So that's what this is for, where you inevitably have to put back more into the system. This is not going to ever make a net bone meal profit. Now, the Etho hopper clock on top has 64 items. I could put more in here. Its sole purpose is to very occasionally fire off this one piston, because right on the edge, I can get an item buildup going on where it's not low enough in order for it to get pulled through the mud into the hopper, but it's also not getting over in range of the hopper minecart because it's staying right here along this little ledge. And this little occasional firing gives those items just a little bit of a nudge to one side or the other so they get pulled into the system. And the end result of all of this I mean, look at this. Is this over-engineered? Absolutely. But I love it. Mostly because this is how fast it comes in. It is a continuous flow of stems. 2 stacks a minute. I'm firing off all of my dispensers by taking full advantage of this comparator clock. Also running it down into some target blocks with torches on top. And I'm just ticking these, and everything's going. Nothing will build up in this system, and it's just gonna, again, I do have a little bit occasionally here that gets in there, but it'll work its way out. It's fine. And this is it. Old Rusty's over-engineered fungus farm for 120 stacks of warped or crimson an hour. If you want crimson, change out those spaces. If you want warped, have warped. And this is it. So that I can automate all of this while, I mean, I'm actually up there in the sky planting shroom lights without having to run it up ahead of time. But as a standalone unit, this is pretty good. You're needing a lot of fungus, or I suppose all this other stuff if you really want that. Grass. I mean, really, there's a lot coming out of here. Most of it's garbage unless you just want it to look pretty. But if you just want it to look pretty, I mean, how much do you need? You can literally just run around with the warp blocks and do this. But, over-engineered, absolutely. I got this from a Java video I saw a while ago that didn't have any water streams. I've been playing around with it, trying to figure out how to make this work in Bedrock since we don't have quasi-connectivity. And I'm happy with this. I'm getting all my spots. I'm firing this off as fast as I possibly can. Recycling everything that I don't want. And then coming down here for these warped fungus that I'm going to turn into sweet, sweet shroom lights. Ugh. Disappointed. Let's get a good one at least before we hit the road on this. Ah. Ooh. A big tree. Fun fact, these have a 1 out of 10 chance of generating. That's a lot of shroom lights. That's what this is all about. Well, that's what that's about. This is just about getting the fungus. Enjoy!